He stood at the edge of the dusty old bus stop, clutching the worn leather handle of a suitcase that had lived longer than most of the people he once knew. The wind carried the faint smell of rain and distant pine, the same smell he remembered from childhood, a smell he had not breathed in for 60 years. Thomas Hale had finally returned. The conductor shouted something behind him, but Thomas didn't hear. His old, tired eyes were fixed on the crooked wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Ridgewood." He swallowed. "Still here," he whispered to himself. His voice trembled, part exhaustion, part disbelief, part fear. Because this wasn't just a town. It was a memory he had spent a lifetime running from. The gravel crunched beneath his shoes as he took his first step into Ridgewood, slow, careful, almost ceremonial. He wasn't walking into a place, he was walking into his past. 60 years, he thought. 60 years, and it still looks like time forgot this town. He paused, lifting his hand to shield his eyes from the late afternoon sun. The streets were quieter than he remembered. The paint on the bakery sign had faded. The old barber shop now stood empty. The corner where kids once sold lemonade now held nothing but cracked pavement and dried leaves swirling in the wind. He exhaled shakily. "Everyone I knew, gone," he murmured. But he hadn't come here for people. He had come here for a promise. The promise he made to himself the night he left. That before he died, he would return one last time. One last walk. One last look. One last goodbye. He started down the road, leaning slightly on his cane, the afternoon sun warming his weathered hands. Every few steps, memories rose like ghosts, soft, blurry, painful. There was the old ice cream shop where he once worked for 10 cents an hour. There was the alley where he carved his initials in the brick wall after first grade. There was the lamp post he crashed his bicycle into at age 14, he could almost hear the laughter of his friends echoing through time. But the one building that made him stop in his tracks was the little cafe on the corner. The paint was peeling. The windows dusty. The sign crooked. And yet, it was exactly the same. Maribel's Cafe. His voice cracked. This was where he had first seen her. He pushed the door gently, and it creaked open. He stepped inside, and for a moment, he forgot he was old. He forgot his aching knees. Forgot his thinning hair. Forgot the weight of 60 long years. Because in his mind, he was 18 again. A girl with brown curls and flour on her cheek turned at the sound of the door, smiling the gentlest smile he'd ever known. Maribel. He almost said her name out loud. Almost reached out to touch her. Almost believed she was still standing there. But she wasn't. All that remained were empty tables and dust-covered countertops. Still, Thomas walked toward the booth in the back corner, the booth where it all began. He sat slowly, running his fingers across the table, tracing the surface as if trying to feel the past carved into it. He closed his eyes. "Hello, Belle," he whispered. His voice shook. He remembered the way she laughed softly when she thought no one heard. The way she hummed while wiping down tables. The way she leaned forward when she talked, as if every word mattered. She had been the reason he never wanted to leave Ridgewood. And the reason he finally did. He leaned back, letting the memories wash over him. He remembered the night she cried, the night she told him she was sick. He remembered the winter he held her hand as the doctor said she didn't have much time. He remembered the trembling promise he made her. "I'll go chase the world for the both of us." She had smiled weakly. "And someday, you'll come back." Her voice had been tired, but hopeful. He had kissed her forehead and whispered, I will. I promise. But after she passed, he couldn't stay. Everything reminded him of her. Her smell. Her laughter. Her dreams. And so he ran, to cities, to jobs, to adventures, to anything that didn't hurt. But the guilt followed him. The memory of leaving her stayed with him, quietly haunting every corner of his life. Now, decades later, he had finally returned. He whispered into the empty cafe, "I'm sorry it took me so long, Belle." A tear escaped his eye. He blinked it away, embarrassed even though no one was watching. He stood and left the cafe, his heart heavy but a little lighter than before. Outside, the sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows down the road. He continued walking, cane tapping rhythmically against the pavement. His next stop was the old schoolyard. He leaned on the rusted fence. The swing squeaked in the wind, that same familiar metal cry. He remembered pushing Maribel on a swing the year they met. She had laughed, telling him he wasn't strong enough to push her higher. He had tried anyway. The memory warmed him. He whispered, "I miss you," then took a long breath and kept walking. He passed Mrs. Langley's grocery store, boarded up now. He passed the riverbank where he once skipped stones. He passed the street where he and his father used to fix bicycles. With every step, it felt like a new piece of himself returned, the boy he once was, the young man in love, the dreamer he had buried under decades of life. But there was one place left. The place he had been both dreading and longing to see. The lake. The same lake where he and Maribel had spent countless evenings talking about everything and nothing. The place she had once said felt closer to heaven. The place where he first told her he loved her. The place where she asked him to live a bigger life. His cane sank slightly into the soft earth as he approached the familiar shoreline. The lake shimmered with the colors of the setting sun, gold, rose, lavender, fading into deep blue. Thomas inhaled the cold, crisp air. "It hasn't changed," he murmured. He walked slowly to the old wooden bench by the water, their bench. He brushed off the leaves and sat down, sighing. "This is where it all began, and where it ended," he said softly. For the first time in decades, he allowed himself to speak to her, really speak. "I traveled, Belle. I saw mountains you would have loved. I saw oceans so clear they looked like glass. I watched fireworks in Paris, lantern festivals in Taiwan, snowstorms in Alaska. I lived the life you told me to live." His throat tightened. "But none of it felt complete without you." The wind rustled through the cattails. He continued, voice quivering. "I met good people. Lost friends. Worked too hard. Slept too little. Grew old. But every year, every birthday, every sunset, I wondered what you'd say. What you'd think. Where we'd be if you had stayed." A tear slipped down his cheek. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "I came back." He took out a small tin box from his coat pocket. Inside was a dried wildflower, the first one she had ever given him, pressed between two sheets of paper. Hands trembling, he placed the flower gently on the ground beside the bench. "For you," he murmured. The sky deepened to blue. A single star appeared. The lake rippled softly, as if answering him. He breathed deeply, quietly, peacefully. "This was my last walk, Belle," he said, almost smiling. He sat there for a long while, listening to the water, the wind, the heartbeat of a place that had shaped his entire life. Eventually, when the cold night settled in, he stood slowly, gripping his cane with both hands. He looked at the lake one final time. "Goodbye," he whispered. Then he turned and walked back toward the town, each step slower, softer, more tired. That night, Thomas returned to the small inn near the bus stop. He hung his coat carefully, placed his cane by the bedside, lay down gently, and with a calm breath, the calmest he had felt in years, he closed his eyes. The next morning, the innkeeper found him peacefully still, a faint smile resting on his lips. He was gone. But he hadn't died in sadness. He died fulfilled. He died home. He died with the love of his life finally put to rest in his heart. And in the soft morning light, the breeze carried a whisper across Ridgewood. Some goodbyes are really homecomings.